blues fans, you found us and we're glad you did. It's time for another episode of This Week in the Blues. It's our weekly take on blues history. I'm your host, Jimbo Big Train Madsen, with the blues band Big Train and the Locomotives. So let's take a look and see what happened this week in blues history. Blues pianist Eddie Boyd was born November 25th in 1914. He was born in either Clarksdale or Stovall, Mississippi, and he learned to play the guitar and the piano. Now, Boyd moved to Memphis in 1936, where he played piano and then joined the Great Migration North to the factories of Chicago in 1941. He accompanied musicians like Sonny Boy Williamson, Jazz Gillum, Muddy Waters, and Tampa Red. Chicago blues guitarist Jimmy Johnson was born November 25th in 1928. Now, Johnson followed a circuitous route back to the blues he grew up with in Mississippi to reemerge on the Chicago blues scene in the 1970s, heralded as a fresh and exciting new voice in the music. His father and younger brothers, Mac and Sil, were all musicians, and as a teenager, he counted Matt Guitar Murphy as a best friend. The piercing, soulful quality of his vocals and guitar playing earned him a staunch following among blues fans, bringing him several W.C. Handy Blues Awards. Blues harmonica player Jerry Portnoy was born November 25th, 1943 in Evanston, Illinois. He first heard the blues played outside his father's carpet store in the Maxwell Street Market in the late 1940s and early 50s. Now, for those of you who don't know, Maxwell Street in Chicago was a mecca for blues musicians who would play on the street for tips. Musicians like Little Walter, Jimmy Rogers, Johnny Young, Big Walter Horton, and many others all played on Maxwell Street. Jazz and blues pianist Kansas City Frank was born November 26th in 1907. His real name was Franklin Melrose, and he became one of the leading figures in the Chicago blues and jazz scene of the 20s and 30s. He was strongly influenced by his brother's business partner, Jelly Roll Morton. On Labor Day of 1941, he was found dead in the street after being killed in a bar fight in a club in Hammond, Indiana. Happy birthday to Bernard Allison, who was born on November 26, 1965 in Chicago. Now, he is the son of blues guitarist Luther Allison. He accompanied his father to blues festivals in the early 1970s. There, he was introduced to Muddy Waters, Hound Dog Taylor, and Albert King, among many others. A week after his graduation from high school, he was invited to join Coco Taylor's touring band. During that time, he furthered his skills under the tutelage of Johnny Winter, who he had met when he was younger, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, who he met in the first year of his career. Talk about a couple of mentors. Happy birthday to Mr. Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix, who was born November 27th in 1942. In the early 1960s, Hendrix worked as a pickup guitarist, backing musicians like Little Richard, B.B. King, Ike and Tina Turner, and Sam Cooke. Now, Hendrix went to London in 1966, and there he created the Jimi Hendrix Experience with bassist Noel Redding and drummer Mitch Mitchell. The band's first single, Hey Joe, hit number 6 on the British pop charts, and the band became an instant sensation. Briefcase Full of Blues, the debut album by the Blues Brothers, who was Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, was released on November 28th in 1978. It is among the highest-selling blues albums of all time. It was recorded live on September 9th in 1978 at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles, when the band opened for comedian Steve Martin. Now, the album consists of covers of blues and soul songs from the 50s up through the 1970s. Okay, now, say what you want about it, but the album and the following movie introduced a whole new generation to the blues. And so for that, it gets props from me. The Godfather of British Blues, John Mayall, was born November 29th, 1933. Mayall developed an early interest in blues, boogie-woogie, and jazz from his father. Now, Mayall took up the piano, guitar, and harmonica and formed his first band in 1962, and later founded the legendary Blues Breakers in London in 1963. Now, the band featured a succession of guitarists who went on to greater blues and rock fame, including Eric Clapton, Peter Green, Mick Taylor, Walter Trout, Coco Montoya, among others. The band also included future Fleetwood Mac founders Mick Fleetwood and John McGhee, in addition to Peter Green. Early blues diva and recording artist Lucille Hegamin was born November 29th in 1894. By the age of 15, she was touring the U.S. South with the Leonard Harper Minstrel Stock Company. In 1914, she settled in Chicago, where, often billed as the Georgia Peach, she worked with Tony Jackson and Jelly Roll Morton. In November of 1920, Hegamin became the second black blues singer to record after Mamie Smith. She made a series of recordings, and one of her biggest hits was Arkansas Blues. She recorded one of Tom Delaney's earliest compositions, Jazz Me Blues, in 1921, and it went on to become a jazz standard. Outstanding bluesman Robert Lee McCullum, who you probably know better as Robert Nighthawk, was born on November 30th, 1909. He was the father of blues musician Sam Carr. Nighthawk was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 1983. He bridged the gap between Delta and Chicago blues effortlessly, taking his slide cues from Tampa Red and stamping them with a Mississippi edge, learned firsthand from his cousin, Houston Stackhouse. He eventually left Chicago for his hometown of Helena, Arkansas, where he briefly took over the King Biscuit radio show after Sonny Boy Williamson died, and continued to play every small juke joint in the area until his death in 1967. Piedmont-style blues singer and guitarist Brownie McGhee was born November 30th, 1915. Now, he's probably best known for his collaboration with the harmonica player Sonny Terry. He was born and raised in Tennessee, and when he was 4 years old, he contracted polio, which incapacitated his right leg. His father, George McGhee, was known for playing guitar and singing. Brownie's uncle made him a guitar from a tin marshmallow box and a piece of board. At age 22, McGhee became a traveling musician, working in the Rabbit Foot Minstrels and befriending guitarist Blind Boy Fuller. Well, blues fans, we just covered some of the highlights here. Now, if you want to know more about these artists or other things that happened this week in the blues, be sure to follow our social media pages or visit our website at bigtrainblues.com. There's a lot there. We'll have a brand new episode next week, so hey, we'll see you then.